What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, along with Kristen. We're back with Flix Fix. We're still doing the Joker trilogy. We're on to Chapter 2 of the Joker trilogy, which is Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight. Kristen, what's up?
You said you needed to sneeze right before we started recording, and then that made me feel like I needed to sneeze.
That was not intentional, I promise. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're doing a
nose is itchy.
We're doing a Batman that you didn't just see for the first time tonight. Hey!
No, but it's been a while since I've seen it, so it might as well be for the first time.
Oh, same. I mean, we said we were going to mention it first and foremost. This movie is long.
Yeah, it was Travis's first time to see it. He was like, "How long is this movie?" I'm like, "It's 152 minutes."
There is a good few times in this movie where the movie could be over. That's the other thing.
Well, you know what's funny? It's both incredibly long and incredibly fast at the same time. Not only is it really long, but it also, like, stuff is just, like, happening. Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
you're like, wait, what was it? Wait, what just happened? Okay, we're moving on now.
Nothing drags because they're always throwing something new in your face, but it's like running for a long time. There's never a lull in it, but you are exhausted after a while as a watcher. I guess the first thing to say, out in 2008, middle section of the Nolan trilogy, which is looked upon by a lot of people as like the best Batman content out there. I don't know where I fall on it. You came into Batman in a really weird cartoony spot, so the really cartoony what's it called, Brockheimer Batmans, or these?
I mean, like, those I feel like were at least a little fun. This is almost like, not that it's like bad, I can't say that it's bad, but it's too dark and gritty and trying to be realistic for me. It's like, we want to show you that everybody is shit. There's two exceptions to that. We're going to show you that everything and everyone is shit. Yeah. And that even the good people can become shit very easily.
It is the House of
with two exceptions.
It is the House of Cards of comic book movies.
Exactly, and I didn't like House of Cards either, so, I mean, and, you know, a lot of people think House of Cards is amazing. It's just not my cup of tea.
It's about American politics. How bad can it be?
Yeah, apparently real shitty. I like stuff that, like, is more inspiring. So, you know, you've got House of Cards, if we're going that metaphor, you got House of Cards on one side, the exact opposite of that coin is West Wing.
And I haven't seen
the West Wing. And I'm more
Wing.
of a West Wing gal.
Well,
I want to hope that, you know, there are people in politics that aren't shitty. Like, when you watch West Wing, I'm like, this is what you want politicians to be. You know they aren't, but I want to hope for it, damn it. I want to be hopeful. I don't want to be reminded that they're all shitty. Or they could all be that a, you know, probably more significant percent of them is shitty. I'm not saying they're all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but I am saying that.
I was gonna say, I think you might be putting a little too much faith in the human race.
Yes, I want to have faith in the human race. I want to be optimistic. Okay, see, I have depression, so I already, like, my brain, I have anxiety and depression, so my brain already tries to convince me that the world is shitty. I don't need any help in that department.
You don't need it confirmed.
Yes, I don't need the outside world to, like, help me with that. I got that shit on my own. I've got the negativity inside me already. I want positive shit.
Fair enough. Okay. Good transition.
Which is why that's why this one's not my favorite. I do acknowledge that it is good, and there are parts of it that I like, which we'll get to them.
Okay, well, if we do want to transition to a little bit of positive, we can say that there is a fucking fantastic cast in this movie.
There is.
Christian Bale as Batman, Heath Ledger as Joker.
I will argue, though, Travis and I were talking about this. This movie, and probably the next one that Christian Bale is in Dark Knight Rises.
Yes.
Proves to me that they need to, when it comes to Batman, they need to just bite the bullet and cast somebody as Bruce Wayne and somebody as Batman. Because in all of these, nobody is ever perfect at both.
Okay, but if you're gonna start doing that, you gotta spread that shit around like the entire comic world.
I'm just saying. Well, no, there's a lot of people that are like Tony Stark, or the guy, Robert Downey Jr. Great Tony Stark, great Iron Man. I don't think anyone's been able to pull off being a great Bruce Wayne and a great Batman. And though he is,
I'll give you an answer that'll piss you off.
What?
Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably the closest to me. That doesn't piss me off. I liked him.
Okay, then you're going against the grain with me then, because a lot of people shit on his rendition. This is why we're not doing the for the Joker trilogy. We're not talking about the Ben Affleck, Jared Leto, Batman Joker pairing. But
I think he was the closest to me liking him as Bruce Wayne and as Batman. I feel like he's a really good Bruce Wayne, and he's an adequate Batman. This one, it gets worse than the next one for Christian Bale. The voice, I know, the voice is notorious.
why do you want to kill me?
Like, exactly, where it's just kind of shitty. It's like, and then in the next one, it goes into damn right comical.
I was gonna say, you want to have a let up moment, but you're laughing for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Anyways, I do want to finish running down quickly the cast for this movie, because it is stacked.
It is good.
It's like when you start listing off all the legendary celebrities that have been in Marvel movies. Like, that list is like, you forget. Like we said in the big massive Marvel review we did a while ago. You always forget that Tommy Lee Jones has been in Marvel movies. But in here you've got Christian Bale as Batman, Heath Ledger. I would say I still like Jack Nicholson as Joker because that's what I grew up on. But Heath Ledger had a transformative performance of the Joker in this movie.
He's a realistic. He's like if somebody was like the Joker like in normal times, other than the fact that apparently he has infinite money as well.
Infinite money and like no origin story, which we're going to talk about in a bit.
The origin story thing is fine. That's fine to me. That doesn't bother me. The infinite money thing where he just like starts pulling rocket launchers out of his ass, basically.
That would hurt. Gary Oldman is an awesome choice for Commissioner Gordon.
Yes, I agree with that. I liked the commissioner who played Commissioner Gordon.
Morgan Freeman. Lucius Fox was not a character that I was familiar with because I was obviously watching the previous Batmans where Lucius Fox was not a factor. Morgan Freeman was the perfect pick for that role because while it is a Batman movie and we're all talking about Batman's, moral compass and all that sort of thing and how he tackles stuff, Morgan Freeman does kind of anchor this movie as like an outside moral check for Batman, and we'll get to that sort of towards the end with the sonar stuff. Aaron Eckhart as Two-Face, it borders on sort of cartoony at some points, but not so much that
we'll get to it.
We'll get to it.
Saying we'll get to it, but the CGI on his face near the end when he becomes
I don't mean visually comical. I think like he does a lot of overacting, and I think he's trying to overact to be.
You mean he does acting instead of acting?
Well, I think his acting is trying to play up to the amount of CGI they put on his face. Michael Caine as Alfred is awesome because Michael Caine's just fucking solid.
He's not. Who's the guy that plays Alfred in the other ones?
Oh, Michael Rowe.
He's the one I think of when I think of Alfred.
Yeah, he's the one I think of when I think of Alfred too. And what's his name that plays him for Ben Affleck's Batman is good too. But Michael Caine is a nice middle ground because he just sort of like the Morgan Freeman character. He just brings that quiet, like wise guy in the background element
and
to it. And
also sarcastic as fuck.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't want to tell you that.
And
by the way, I told you so.
What?
That's what
okay, I got it. I didn't pick that up right away. It's tired in here. And Maggie Gyllenhaal is not Katie Holmes, and that's okay.
Yeah. That is okay.
It's really the only, as far as like continuity and whatever, it's the only thing that really separates this movie from its predecessor with Batman Begins is Katie Holmes has that role. And I hadn't seen Maggie Gyllenhaal in very much. When I saw this for the first time, I hadn't seen S. Darko yet. And I hadn't seen anything else that she's in, so she was just this character. When I saw Batman Begins, I see Katie Holmes in other things, and it's like, okay, why is Dawson's Creek in my Batman movie? So it didn't carry through from the first movie, but I do think it was a better choice. And I mean, Katie Holmes wasn't available for this anyways, so it is what it is. I don't think there's anybody else major that we're missing, so we will go on to the first scene. I heard it said really recently on another podcast that this opening scene could be a short movie all on its own, and it's the bank scene where all the crooks in the clown masks are all getting together, and they're all talking about how they've been hired by the Joker, and you sort of see this fall off of like one guy does his thing and the guy behind him kills him, and the guy that shot him does his part of the job.
Yeah, they talk about like splitting everything 5 ways.
And then splitting it 4 ways, and then splitting it 3 ways.
Yeah.
And what's happened? Oh, the great thing is when he's like, "Oh, I bet he told you to kill me next." It's like, "No, I killed the bus driver." And then the bus driver comes in like full Kool-Aid man through the side of the building. And the great thing is, and speaking of actors, William Fichtner is the guy in the bank as Joker's getting ready to leave, and he just starts trying to lecture him, and you know that it's a mob bank because they figure that out while they're trying to pick the locks and whatever, and it's like, oh, why isn't this calling the police? Oh, it's going to some private number. It's a mob bank, da-da-da-da-da. And the guy at the bank, who's played by William Fichtner, who people who watched Prison Break would know as the agent that had a lot of drug issues and always hid drugs in his pen, he sort of tries to yell at him from the ground. It's like, you know, you're not like the crooks in the old days. The crooks in the old days had beliefs and values and whatever. What do you believe in? And then you get that great reveal of, you know, whatever doesn't kill you just makes you stranger. And off comes the mask. And he takes off the clown mask to show the clown face in the beginning. This is the reveal. What I do like, first of all, we're going to talk about how this could be a movie all on its own. Second of all, there are key moments in this movie where each character gets an intro. This is Joker's intro. This is not even a Batman movie yet. This is just, hey, this is a movie about Joker. Here's Joker. So to go from being the guy sort of in the back of the car, not really saying anything, just being quiet in his mask, to slowly taking everybody out, to the reveal at the end that it's him, this opening scene, I don't think has very many rivals as far as movie openers go.
No, it doesn't. Sorry, I was also I forgot about Batman Begins being the first movie in this, and it will reiterate my point of why the fuck does anyone live in Gotham City?
I mean, there is a problem with all. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to talk about it later, but we can talk about it right at the beginning.
I told Travis about this. I'm like, the first of this shit that happened, I would be like, I would leave. And if I was trying to look for a job and they're like, we need you to move to Gotham City, I'd be like, well, then you need to find someone else.
You need to fuck off.
Because I'm not, fuck that place.
But that is intrinsically a problem with most individualized comic book movies, stories, whatever.
In the DC universe, I would not live in any town that has a superhero. If a superhero started becoming active in my town, I would fucking move.
But this is
I'm like, then some bullshit's gonna happen.
But this is the fallacy that you get with most of these characters. Like, watch a Spider-Man show, you'll believe that all the crime in the world happens in, I think it's New York, New Jersey, wherever he is. You watch a Batman show or a Batman movie, you believe that all the crime in the whole goddamn world happens in Gotham. If you watch a Superman movie, all the crime happens in Metropolis. If you watch The Flash,
well, that's not true. If you believe that they all come together in continuity with, you know, the DC, forget the cinematic universe, just, you know, DC, if you're just taking the comics in general, which I know you don't watch, you know, all these heroes know where they live. So Flash is in Central City, Green Arrow is in Star City. Like, basically, if I were a citizen in a universe that had the DC superheroes in it, I would not live in any big town that had a superhero in it. As soon as the news would be like a vigilante, I'd be like, we're fucking moving.
But does that not lend itself to the proposed idea that almost every city has its own hero? It's just some of them are more well known than others.
I mean, sometimes I would have to look up specific heroes to see. A lot of the low key heroes don't have their own city; they have to share cities with someone else. Talking, I will.
Spider-Man is in Iron Man's jurisdiction.
I mean, yeah, in the Marvel universe, there are a lot of heroes that share.
I mean, a lot of stuff happens in New York.
To the point where they section off parts of New York City, like Daredevil is in Hell's Kitchen, and Spider-Man is in Brooklyn, and.
I don't know. And then you got Superman, who is watching the whole universe, but also just watching Metropolis.
And then Supergirl is in her own place, and yeah, I would just not live anywhere that had superheroes anyway in it.
Fair enough. So we go from the introduction of the Joker to the introduction of Gordon, and you get the mayor being interviewed, and it's all sort of a voiceover type thing, letting us know how, where Gotham's at, and they're talking to him, what do you think of this vigilante, and this and that, the investigation is ongoing, and then you hear random people calling into the radio show, and some people like it, some people don't, whatever the case may be. They show some criminals on the ground that are about to do a drug deal, but then they don't, and then they run away because the bat signal is up in the air, because Gordon is reminding them that he's there. He has a moment with one of his lieutenants, and I'm really going to be shitty with the lieutenants' names, but basically he's out there, he's got the bat signal on the roof, because we got the bat signal in the last iteration, because every iteration has to have the moment where the police get a bat signal, and they're just talking, and Batman's not there, and it's like, well, I just, he's sort of pontificating to himself. It's like, I just like reminding the city that he's out there. But yeah, this is our reintroduction to Gordon. He's the same Gordon that was in Batman Begins. Like we say, it's Gary Oldman. He's really good. We're getting introduced to the people under him that are going to become much more. I don't want to say relevant, but they're going to be key chess pieces as the story goes on. But at this point, you don't really know that, so he's just talking to his coworkers and having his coffee and just leaning like the cool guy on the bat signal. And then we finally, after the introduction of Joker, after the introduction of Gordon, after William Fichtner tells Joker how to be a friggin' criminal with honor, we see Batman breaking up a random drug deal, and because there's actual continuity in this trilogy, one of the guys involved in the drug deal is fucking Scarecrow. Fights off a bunch of guys, fights off the drug dealer's dog, and then he runs into a fake Batman and has to save
a couple of fake Batmans.
And we do get a little bit of comedy because
a couple of fake Batmans show up and try and shoot the place.
And it really sort of hammers in on Batman, this is the weight of being a vigilante. You might inspire other vigilantes. And he has the great line about, what's the difference between you and me? I'm not wearing hockey pants. And then we see him get away in the bat.
Okay, going back to my conversation about where superheroes are based. So, the hero Blue Beetle is in El Paso, Texas. The hero Black Lightning is in Chicago.
Of course he is.
Booster Gold. Let's see where he's going to be. He shares one with Superman. He's in Metropolis. So the big ones have a couple that have to share. All right, sorry, continue. I still have thoughts on Night Rise.
No, I think it's kind of cool, and it's not something that they really tackled in the other trilogy. And it's on the one hand, you got a big super powerful vigilante hero like Batman, you're going to inspire big vigilante villains like Joker. But the thing that the other, I should say quadrology, because it's 4 movies, doesn't really tackle is, if you got Batman out there making everybody think that anybody can be a hero, he's got to watch out for the villains, but he's also got to watch out for these idiots in hockey pants that are going to get themselves killed. So it is a little heavy-handed, and it is a little like, let's get the prototypical like fat nerd in his mom's basement in hockey pants that thinks he's Batman. But it does the point. I don't know, because on the one hand, if you follow the moral message of it, it's like, hey, other people that see Batman, don't you go being inspired and try to do something good, because, you'll get called an idiot, but at the same time, don't be an idiot and try to fight villains in hockey pants. So it shows you what Batman's sort of struggling with. Like, I need to do what I need to do, but I have to make sure that what I do doesn't make everybody else's life worse and whatever. Anyways, Gordon and the cops investigate the bank robbery. They find the Joker card. They discuss the Joker card with Batman. And here's a point in the movie that I didn't realize until I was making notes for this podcast. Everybody thinks that Joker's not a big deal. Like, the mobsters don't think Joker's a big deal. They got to worry about their money and the feds. The cops and the feds and whatever aren't really worried about Joker. They want to get the money in the banks marked so they can get the mobsters and the organized crime shit. We got to move on all the banks at once. He's putting this plan together with Gordon. He wants to talk to this new DA that he's heard of, who the last time we saw Harvey Dent, it was played by Billy D. Williams, but all of a sudden it's Aaron Eckhart and Harvey Dent is suddenly white. But Batman decides that the Joker can wait, which anybody that knows anything about Batman is immediately going to laugh at. This is sort of, and I'm curious to hear if you agree with me on this one or not, this is kind of cool because it kind of goes back into Batman doing not so action-y things and actually putting plans in place and being like the great detective.
Being the great detective Batman. I guess I didn't take the same thing you did from it. It was just, they were trying to get the mobsters. And is this before or after the guy who, oh no, it's after. You have to keep going with the Asian guy who it's like, I have all your money and don't worry, it's safe.
Oh, yes. And there's a magic trick.
Who
we have
talks
to
to them through a TV.
Yeah, it's like the shittiest version of Skype ever because it's on like a box TV and it's like it doesn't work like that. Like, that's not how any of this works.
Batworld.
That's not how any of this works.
It does in Batworld where you can do all this shit from a fucking Nokia.
He's talking into his phone, and what's on his phone is showing up on an old school box TV in some random, kitchen while he's talking to them. We're going to get there when we get there, but what we do have is Alfred walking through a random ocean container field, because that's the sketchy entrance to the temporary Batcave. I find it hilarious.
Oh, yeah, because the house blew up.
I find it absolutely hilarious, only because I work in a warehouse, so I've been in ocean containers, and they're really weird and claustrophobic inside, especially if you're on a machine. But it's just
this one.
Randomly, the floor just goes away, and
well, it's fucking a billionaire. That's Batman's real power is being rich.
But I also know how many people just randomly steal those ocean containers and try to make
Oh,
mini RVs out of them and shit. Somebody would have found this by now. It's absolutely ridiculous. Nobody listening right now will ever give a shit about this. I just get this because I work in warehousing. Those pods, those ocean containers, go disappearing at an alarming rate, and then you find them 5-6 cities over, and somebody's just turned them into a stationary mobile home. It's very strange. Somebody would have found the Batcave by now if this was real, but it's not, so it's fine. Talks to Batman. He's stitching his own arm up like it's nothing, which is always kind of creepy. I can see somebody get their arm blown off or get decapitated in a movie, but when I see little shit like somebody stitching themselves, it always kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. A little bit. Nope.
No, it doesn't to me. That doesn't bother me at
Okay,
all.
well you're kind of in a medical field.
unless
though.
it's like eyeball stuff. Like if they're touching eyeballs, can't do that. Ugh.
Remind me to Skype you like video later and just like touch my eye and stuff. Anyways, you talk.
I will not answer. I will not answer any of your Skype calls now.
It's fine. But he talks about needing lighter armor. He needs to be lighter, but he needs to be more protective because he's still getting.
You want to be able to turn your head? Oh, that's later.
Oh, it is later, which is so awesome considering how much we talked about that in the last podcast.
Yeah.
Because Michael Keaton couldn't turn his head. If he needs to look sideways, he kind of looks like a weeble.
He has to turn his whole body.
He looks like a weeble. He looks like injured me on a forklift. It's fine. Moving on. Talks about the fact that he needs to be more protective, but the armor still needs to be lighter. Talks about
and then he asks it specifically to be, how's it against dogs?
Well, yeah, no, he says he was mauled by a dog, and Alfred looks at him. He's like, "Come on, man, a big dog." Because the other joke is coming later. Starts talking about the copycats, and Alfred talks about knowing your limits and talks about basically what we just said. You have to be careful with what you're doing. Who gave these people a license to do what they're doing? You did. Talks about the new DA. This is how we find out that the new DA that he's about to meet is also, coincidentally, dating Rachel. Dun, dun, dun. And then we switch over and we see Harvey Dent in court, what I think is kind of humorous, even though it's kind of terrible. He's in court. He's pressing charges against some random mob guy. He's trying to work his way up to like the big guns, and the guy on the interrogation stand just sort of takes the bullet for his boss, obviously, because that's what mobsters do. I guess he takes the blame. He says, I was the mastermind behind the whole thing, and then tries to pull a gun on him. And then we get some Americana in there because the gun jams. Dent takes the gun from him, unloads it, puts it on the table, and he says, "Oh, I know where you got this. It's, XYZ place in China or whatever." And then right in the middle
Buy American made.
Yeah, it's like, next time you want to kill me, I suggest you buy American. And this is where you get into a thing about, like, Batman has way too much bravado in one sense because he's a vigilante and he thinks, as long as he thinks what he's doing is right, he can defend what he's doing. Dent is sort of coming in and, yes, I'll use the cliche, being the white knight and being brazen, and I'm just going to take out all these mobsters. It's no big deal. We'll just file them into court nice and neat, and I'm going to solve all of Gotham's problems. So he's got hubris right off the bat that obviously is gonna
go real well for him.
It's gonna bite him in the ass eventually. You see them having a little bit of banter in the hallway, and Rachel, who's now played by Maggie Gyllenhaal, is like, well, we can't really use any of that, but the fact that they're trying to kill you means we're getting to them. It means we're getting somewhere. He's like, I'm fine, by the way. And then they make some joke about, like, if I pretend that I was really shaken up, we can take the afternoon off, but, like, after he's going to see Gordon. And here, I don't know, there's an argument to be made that the biggest part of the movie starts right here, because Dent is talking to Gordon. He wants in on how they're tracing the bills to get to the mobsters, etc.
He wants to talk to Batman, basically, and Gordon's giving him the runaround as to we're not working with Batman.
Well, he does want to talk to Batman, but he also, aside from that, he wants in on this big, massive task force that's trying to bring in all the organized crime, and he tries to warn them against the people that are on his what is it?
Basically, there's crooked cop. He says there's crooked cops in Gordon's outfit.
Yeah.
And Gordon's like, whatever.
And then I've
vetted these guys.
Yeah, you find out why. Well, no, he doesn't say he vetted these guys. He's like, I occasionally we have to do the best of what we've got. And then you find out why a lot of people don't like Dent, because not only is he this brazen asshole that thinks he's going to save everybody, but also he's an IAB guy. And an IAB guy for the police I have to imagine, is basically like going to HR in every other job. And nobody
They're
like
the police that investigate other police.
Yeah, and nobody's going to like that character, so it gives layers to why it might be that he's a dickhead. And, Gordon just, mocking him to his face, really. He's like, you don't have to convince me, Dent. We all know you came in to be Gotham's White Knight. And the whole White Knight, Dark Knight, White Knight, Dark Knight thing is super fucking heavy. And here's where we get to... Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, it's very heavy-handed.
It is. Subtlety is not this movie's strong suit. I think we can go out on a limb and say that right now. Mm-hmm. Joker thinks that all of Gotham is terrible, and he's going to prove that to Batman. Batman is a vigilante, and he has to watch out because he's inspiring all this. Like, a hero like him inspires a villain like Joker, but not until we get to the actual Joker movie, which is what we'll be doing next, does a movie hit you in the head harder with its themes than in this movie. And like you say, combine that with the grittiness that I know you're not particularly a fan of. And this movie is a bit of a sledgehammer of a movie.
That's a good way to describe it to me. It is a sledgehammer of a movie. Where it's just like real heavy about everything. So if you're not into that, if you're more into, basically, if you like most of the Marvel movies, you're probably not gonna like this one.
Well, the Marvel is heavy-handed with its messages too. It's just that more of its messages are positive.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. If you're all about the positivity, you need a positive thing. Like, my parents wouldn't like this movie. They like the positive aspects that that a lot of the Marvel movies do. Not all of them, but...
There we go. So we have the Wayne board meeting, and this is played off a little bit for laughs as well, but you have Mr. Lau.
Oh yeah, this is fucking hilarious.
You have Mr. Lau, who's meeting with the board of directors, and rah. Supposedly, there's going to be a big merger between Lau Industries and Wayne Enterprises, and basically Lucius Fox is taking over the meeting because Bruce is asleep. And this is the other thing that gets drilled in really hard in Batman Begins, where Alfred basically tells him that, if you're going to be out all night, you're going to have to explain to people where you've been. He's sitting there in the meeting, owner of the company, sleeping through the meeting. And I've heard interpretations of this as like, every rich person is bad, so look at this guy, he's just making a fool out of his own company. And I'm just like, it's because he's Batman, and he's been Batmaning. Anyways. Well,
Batman's always used the Playboy thing as a, like, he can't possibly be Batman. He can, he can barely keep his shit together.
Yeah, it's not a great look, but it is what it is. But
it's a cover.
It is a cover, but also everything happens at Wayne Manor. Like, we did Batman 89 last time. The big fundraiser is happening at Wayne Manor. The big birthday thing that he has in Batman Begins, which is the movie before this one, has the big fundraiser birthday thing where he pretends to be super drunk to get everybody out of the house. Everything happens at Wayne Manor. Wayne Manor is the Madison Square Garden of Gotham.
Well, I mean, they prove that later on whenever, he throws the fundraiser for Harvey Dent. He's basically like, yeah, if I throw you a fundraiser, you will never have
You'll never need another
again.
one. Yeah, we'll get to that. What I love is this is just basically to introduce us to Lau, and Lau telling them that he's got some things to handle back at home. I think he's in Hong Kong.
Yes.
It's either Hong Kong or China. But he has to go back, and he looks forward to meeting with them further and whatever, and Fox comes
It's Hong Kong, but Hong Kong is a part of China at this point.
Okay.
Which is why they talk about, like, they'll never extradite a Chinese national.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, they get to that as well. But he lets Fox know that none of this was really to get a deal. He just wanted to get a closer look at Lau's books because he thinks he's involved in the mob stuff, which he is. He talks to Fox about the armor mods. This is where you get you want to be able to turn your head.
Yes. So you want to be able to turn your head?
And what does he say? Because even, I love the fact that he's talking to Fox, and Fox knows obviously who he is, but he's still saying it in a way that Fox could deny all knowledge. He's like, yeah, well, it really would make backing out of my driveway easier.
Easier, yeah.
And then you see jealous, not quite boyfriend Bruce, because he brings random prima ballerina from the Russian ballet to a restaurant to crash the date between Dent and Rachel. He says, "Oh, we're going to bring a couple of tables together. We can all sit together. Isn't this wonderful?" And he has to...
you forgot the part where Dent's like, yeah, it took me like 3 weeks to get this reservation.
And then he's like, I don't think we can just do that. I don't think we can put all these tables together like this. He's like, well, I think we can. I own the place. They start debating the Batman issue, and of course Bruce Wayne, because he doesn't want people to think that he's Batman, is debating against the Batman and all this sort of thing.
He can't be Batman. He doesn't like Batman.
Because that's not a cover at all. But he's like, who? Because he does. It is a really cool way of him to find out what Dent thinks of Batman. Because he's like, oh, who gave Batman all these rights and responsibilities? And Dent's like, well, we did. Every time we sat back and let him handle it for us. And you get the one line from this movie, and the one thing about Batman movies that we've proven over the past 2 podcasts is they are incredibly quotable. And the one line from the movie that everybody quotes at one time or another that I think means way more, or they think it means way more than it actually does, because there's better quotes from other parts of the movie, is the whole you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. It's great foreshadowing for what happens at the end of the movie, but that's not as profound. No, that's not as profound as I think they want it to be. I get where it's going, and for the story, for the characters, for the scene that they're in right at that particular moment, it does work, and it's a fantastic line, but it's not that profound. It's basically like, people are shitty. If they like you now, they're not going to like you later. And it's like,
You'll always do something to piss them off. You'll never be liked forever.
Oh my god, can you imagine if Batman was real in like our actual 2020 right now? They would just go search his Twitter and they'd find a reason to like cancel culture his ass. Moving on.
Batman is a super spreader. He won't stay in the house.
But the ladies like him, and he turns them into super spreaders too. Hey.
Boo.
That was good. That was really good.
No, it wasn't. It was bad. It was very bad.
Spreads like peanut butter. Anyways, the mob bosses are meeting in secrecy in a random, like, restaurant kitchen thing because they're scared of Batman and they don't want to admit that they're scared of Batman. The mob bosses are talking, as we said, about the really bad... They're talking, through the really bad Skype on the box TV, which is weird. They're arguing about whether they need to worry about the cops or worry about the Joker. So they're doing the exact same thing the cops are doing. The mirroring of that is awesome. They find out that Lau has moved all their money into one location that's not a bank. They left behind, and sort of while he's explaining, they also show the cops being all pissed off in the bank because the marked bills have been left behind. Enter the Joker. He proposes that he's going to go get Batman himself, that Lau is not scared of, or is not free of the Batman because Batman has no jurisdiction. He tells them that they don't know how to be criminals because their balls have fallen off. And then just to prove his point, he does the, you want to see a magic trick? And he does the pencil in the table. Fucking great scene, and it happens so fast that it doesn't even have time to register in your head the first time you watch it. Puts the pencil in the table, grabs the guy's head, pushes it down, he just falls off the table, and the conversation keeps going, which is the best part of that, because it's not like he did it and then everybody went, oh my god, what the hell is that? Like, they don't let you register it, and this scene is fucking great. And I'm going to stop rambling now, and you're going to say something.
I mean... The scene is memorable. The pencil thing is something that everybody remembers, and I specifically like the part where he talks about some guy in a cheap purple suit.
Yes.
And he goes, "It's not cheap. You paid for it."
you should know. You bought it. And it's like, you know what? If you guys keep running from the cops, and because one of the guys' name is like Gamble or something like that. And he says, if we keep going, give it another couple of months, and Gamble over here won't be able to make a nickel for his grandmother. I'm like, that... but there's so much stuff that, on its own, like I say, the pencil thing is the biggest example, but there's so many little things dropped in this scene that on their own would have their own impact. But it's almost more impactful because they happen and you don't have time to react because the next thing is already happening. And it's so It's the way he...
Well, see, that's what I'm talking about when I say everything's, like, incredibly fast. The movie's incredibly long, but also shit's constantly happening.
Yeah. The thing is about... and it took me a while to realize this, that obviously Heath Ledger's Joker performance is like 10 out of 10. It's solidified in everybody's brains because unfortunately he passed away before he could get the credit that he deserved for it. But I think what does it for me and what makes it unsettling is the way he talks. Because they've done such a good job making his face all scarred up and whatever. His mannerisms when he talks is he's always sort of chewing his face a little. Mm-hmm. So when he talks, it's like somebody you don't like talking really close to your ear, so that you can hear when like their mouths are like.
That's true. Yeah, that is. It's a little unsettling.
It's unsettling because you would only really hear that if somebody was right in your ear, in your personal space. So the fact that somebody can mimic that feeling, even though they're across the room, or in this case, like on your television screen. It's unsettling. Now you put that along with all of his like tics and quirks and the fact that like he talks really low, talks really low, talks really high. You know, we talk about wrestling promos. Not that this is a wrestling thing, but like, you know, if you want to say something, you can ramble off a bunch of stuff, and then when you get to the most important thing that you're talking about, slow down, say it more than once, say it clearly, say it whatever. All of that goes into his performance, and I think it happens here as well because like. One of the guys asks him, like, you know, do you think you can just come in here and threaten us and get away with it? And before he even finishes the sentence, Joker's already saying, yeah. And he leaves them a card. He's like, here's my card. Let me know when you want to talk about this Batman problem. Oh, because he has the other great line. And this line is greater than the Dent line. The line, you know, oh, if Batman's such a big problem and you've got all the big bad solutions, why don't you do it yourself? And he's like, if you're good at something, never do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
Which is great. Which is even better when you realize that he doesn't want to do it for free, but yet he doesn't want the money either, which we find out later on. And then just to reinforce that he's absolutely fucking insane, he lifts up his hand and his one thumb is on a ring, and that ring leads to about 5 or 6 explosives.
5 or 6 grenades, yeah, in his pocket. Well, yeah, if somebody goes to like jump him or attack him or something. And he shows them, by the way, I have a whole bunch of grenades.
But he doesn't even say anything. He gets into that really like twitchy, like really high energy. And that is more impactful than the next thing that he's about to say. There's so much. The pencil is like the punctuation point, but there's so much of just this scene, and all it is a couple dudes around a table listening to a guy talk. Like, there's no action, there's no fighting, per se, except for the one pencil spot. And it is an exact mirror to what we talked about in Batman 89, where the guy tries to step up to him, and he's like, well, if we don't agree, just shake hands and that'll be it. And then he fries the guy. The cheap prop, dummy, burnt corpse thing isn't there. The pencil thing is a lot more effective.
Mm-hmm.
I love this scene. If you can't tell, Heath Ledger... we talk about him sounding like he's chewing his face, but on a more serious level, every scene he's in where he gets to monologue for a long period of time, he is literally chewing the scenery. It's fantastic. We go to a pretty mundane scene that just does a little bit more scene setting. It's Dent working his way up to the top of the Gotham headquarters, or the Gotham police headquarters. He misuses the bat signal because he wants to talk to Batman, and this is the only way he's going to get to do it. Gordon runs up the stairs because he thinks somebody's like hijacked the bat signal. The three of them
have. Somebody has.
And somebody pretty much had, but like, you know, a trap for Batman type thing. And the two of them just like. You put yourself in Batman's shoes for a second.
Yes, they're yelling.
They're
and
just
screaming
bickering
at each other, and there's a look on Batman's face like, "Do I have to be here for this?"
Yeah, he doesn't, because he fucks off. And then Dent's like, "Can you get loud?" And Batman's already gone. And you do get the great line from Gary Oldman, and it's like, yeah, he does that. He does that a lot. I will say, what is it in Justice League when they all fuck off except Flash, and he's like. Wow, they just all left. That's rude. I am looking forward to Justice League Snyder Cut.
I'll probably watch it, but Snyder's always been kind of like dark and gritty, so it probably isn't going to be up my alley.
Probably not, but it's going to be better
But
than what we got before.
I'll still give it a go.
I don't know how I feel about it being released like in pieces, because I think that's a bit weird.
Didn't know that.
Well, the Snyder cut that's going to HBO, I think they said it's like 4 3/4 hours long.
Oh.
So basically, to the best of my knowledge, and I could be wrong, somebody correct me down in the comment section if I'm wrong. To the best of my knowledge, they're going to release like the 4 different parts like over a couple of weeks, and then they're just going to release the whole movie after that. A lot of people I know are just going to be like, I have said already, I'm just going to wait until the whole movie comes out. On that note as well, apparently if you're not in an area where theaters are open, Christmas Day you're going to be able to watch Wonder Woman 2 on HBO if you've got it, which means I'm going to be watching it on Crave, which is fine, I guess. So we might have something new to talk about eventually. Lucius Fox and Bruce Wayne are talking. He gets some new armor. This is where we get the line about, am I going to be, how will it hold up against dogs? Are you talking about Rottweilers or Chihuahuas? Well, I don't know, but it should do good against cats. That's not foreshadowing for the next movie at all. They talk about the program called Skyhook, which is a way that he's going to drop into Hong Kong and get loud.
Well, it's the way he's going to get on the plane without the plane stopping.
Yeah, it is kind of cool. When we get to it, we'll get to it. But then he needs to come up with an alibi to figure out to explain to why he's not in Gotham. Flash 2. Dent and Rachel are supposed to be going to the Russian ballet thing, and it's been canceled because Bruce has taken the entire, the Bolshoi ballet on a cruise.
Yeah.
He's just hijacked the entire...
on like a sailboat.
He's hijacked the entire Russian ballet, and Alfred is really, really upset about putting suntan lotion on a bunch of gorgeous women, which I don't really understand, but that's me.
I guess you're through a page already.
I'm on to about page 4. It's fine. My notes are fucking ridiculous. If anybody out there that watches the videos where I'm actually live on the screen and has seen me tearing page after page after page off the Doomy clipboard of Doom, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Joker arrives, but he arrives in a body bag at the club of the guy Gamble that had challenged him in the meeting. And this is where...
yeah, they put a bounty on his head in that meeting.
They put a bounty on his head, and a couple of random gangsters that Gamble still thinks works for him. They drag in the body bag, and it's got Joker in it, and
they're like, you got so much for him dead, and more if he was alive.
And he does a pretty good job of looking dead for a couple of seconds, and then he pops out, and this is where you get the first of many, many different stories.
Of what his background is, quote.
Yeah, basically do you want to know how I got these scars? And he tells the story about his father.
The why so serious story.
Yeah, but this is the one about the father. Later there's the one about the wife we'll get into in a second, but this one is apparently, he tried to defend his mother from his drunk father, and his father told him to smile, and he cut him, and all this sort of thing. What I don't understand, though, is Gamble falls down like he's been shot dead. Now, the implication is that Joker's put this blade in his mouth, and I'm nitpicking. Before you tell me, I know I'm nitpicking. If somebody put a knife in your mouth and cut a smile into your face, that's pretty traumatic. You're not gonna fall down dead from that.
I don't know. I've never been sliced on my face before. Probably wouldn't feel great.
I try to avoid it. But no, he falls limp as soon as it happens. It's just the way it's shot is really strange. I think the scene itself is amazing. Him setting the scene is amazing, telling the story of his origin. It only becomes more scary later when you find out that he tells a completely different origin story to somebody else, and then you get what he's actually doing. The scarier thing for me is he looks around to the rest of the people in the room, is my organization has room for massive expansion, but there's not room for everybody. So he drops a bunch of broken pool cues on the ground. He's like, this is your tryout, and the assumption is that these 3 guys have to fight to the death just to get on his team so that they don't also die.
I would attack somebody with a gun so that they shot me.
Yeah, fair. Lucius Fox is over with Lau in Hong Kong. He leaves the mapping device that we don't yet know is a mapping device.
Yeah, he basically flies all the way to Hong Kong to be like, yeah, we're not going to do business with you. And he's like, you could have done that in a phone call.
It is really weird, though, and this is, again, one of those visual things that absolutely doesn't matter at all, but it still bugs me because I am a visual person, because he comes in, and he goes to the sort of like the reception area type thing, and they ask him, we don't allow cell phones in here. He hands him a cell phone, and the security guy puts the phone, which is supposed to be like, we're keeping your phone in reception, but it's going to be kept safe and you can get it on your leave. I don't feel very safe when my belongings are being put in the absolutely clear drawer of an absolutely clear desk, and now I have to walk away. But it allows them to...
You were nitpicking.
I am nitpicking. I said that when I started.
I know, but I would just like to reiterate
it's
that
very
it definitely
strange.
is nitpicking.
Like, a security storage unit shouldn't be clear. That's it. That's all I got. But it does mean we have to have the very obvious moment later on where he is talking to Lau and his actual phone rings, just so that the audience knows that what's downstairs isn't an actual phone.
Or isn't actually his phone.
It's the sonar mapping device thing. We get the late night extraction of Lau. There's not a whole lot to say. Batman does a weird sort of like glider thing. He has to go to a higher building so that he can glide down into the lower building. Kicks the shit out of everybody. There's an extended bit of Lau just being like, where the hell is my security? Why the fuck do I pay for this? Type thing. They do the skyhook. The skyhook thing is really cool. It's basically a launching air balloon with a flashlight in it so that the plane can hook him and take him back. And he just gets left on the front step of not Wayne Enterprises,
and of
GCPD.
The police station.
Yeah.
And it's like with the cop, they're like, "Who brought him in?" They're like, "Oh, we don't really care how he got here, but he's here now."
Yeah.
I think there'd be all over Chinese media that a big CEO guy got kidnapped in the middle of the night.
Yeah. You would think that, okay, and I'm going a little bit far afield here, but it's announced that he was dropped off to an American police facility, and it's all over the news. If somebody illegally landed in your country to kidnap a person of note, obviously, and they're suddenly found, would that not be an international incident?
Apparently not.
Of some degree.
China's like, whatever.
Anyways, but with Lau's help, they do manage to get all the warrants for all the thing.
They basically, it does a thing where it's like, how are we going to get everybody? And they're like, oh, they pooled their money together. We can charge them all for as one criminal organization, and that's how we're going to get them. And then basically you see the scene where Dent has, I don't know, 57 people in the court trial.
No, that's great. Time. That's great. I've actually got the numbers. I'm going to do that in a second because I actually took the time to write them down.
Those are the counts, but I don't know how many people are actually in the courtroom.
Right, but the scene where Dent walks in to the restaurant where the mobster is, and it's like, hey man, you really think it's a good idea?
It's not Dent. It's
Gordon. Sorry,
it's Gordon. Yeah.
You really think it's a good idea to embarrass me in front of all my friends? And he's like, don't worry, they're coming too. And the voiceover by the judge is absolutely amazing because she has to read off all the charges, obviously. 712 counts of extortion, 849 counts of racketeering, 246 counts of fraud, 87 counts of conspiracy murder, 527 counts of obstruction of justice, 549 criminals in all. And while she's reading these out, she also sees that there's a Joker card in amongst all the court paperwork.
And she just throws it aside.
And because it's like, what the fuck, somebody's doing a prank or whatever.
Thing.
We're in with the mayor. And the mayor is basically telling Dent that he needs to not be a cowboy.
That he's being crazy.
I mean, if people are guilty, they should be charged.
No, but in the way he's doing it is he's
I won't mention any specific.
This is insane.
I won't mention any specific events, But in a perfect world, if there was a riot, you would arrest every single person involved in that riot. We can't do that because we don't have the personnel, etc., etc. But if you could possibly do it, and you could do what they did here, it should absolutely happen. It should never be a case of, well, there's too many of you, so we can't charge you. So I think this is absolutely...
Well, I don't think that wasn't what I was saying at all. I'm just saying that the mayor was like, you're a crazy man. Like, holy shit.
Well, because he's looking at it from the realistic point of view, too. It's like, okay, these are all the criminals, but all these criminals had their hands in a bunch of cops' pockets, a bunch of judges' pockets, a bunch of whatever. Like, everybody's going to come for you now. And that is a reality check that Dent needs, because he has, like we said, since the beginning of the movie, he's been the cowboy. He's been the guy that's like, I'm untouchable, I'm going to come and save your city, and you're going to love me, and whatever. And that's all broken up, because the fake Batman from the beginning of the movie gets hung and slams into the mayor's window. And it's pretty gruesome looking, because he's obviously all, like, dead in the face and whatever, and bleeding, and he's got
and he has Joker makeup on.
He has Joker makeup on, but he also looks... It's a dummy, obviously, but it also looks very much like a dummy, and he's got the Joker card on there, and you don't know what's on the Joker card, because they have to go and test it and whatever, and he basically leaks this video...
That's not true. It says, will the real Batman please stand up?
Right, but it doesn't...
On the Joker card. No, they do it. They zoom in on his chest to show it.
They do show it, but my point is they don't find out until later on what that clue is. Because they don't say, hey, I'm targeting X, Y, and Z person next. They have to figure that part of it out. But he does play a video. He does demand the Batman unmask. It is him sort of toying with the... It's him toying with the fake Batman guy, like, why would you do this, you know? Well, Batman makes me believe that, you know, we don't have to put up with people like you. And then Joker is basically talking to the citizens of Gotham, and it's like, do you see this? Like, do you see what Batman is turning people into? And that's the part that's scary, because that's the part that kind of makes sense. Because, like, it is the downside of Batman. It is... it could inspire somebody like this guy who's clearly not, like, equipped for... wants to do good, but isn't equipped for the job or mentally prepared for the job. So, a lot of Joker, no matter what movie you're in, the disturbing parts of it are, like, the stuff that he says that's actually true.
The parts that make sense.
The parts that make sense, the parts that are true. Anyways, he demands the Batman unmask, or more people are going to die. The cool thing about this, and I literally found this out, like, this week while I was looking up, like, random facts about the movie. Seeing as I totally forgot to do the random facts about Batman 89, because I'm a moron, the whole video bit there that he submits to the police, that's all shot, like, one shot on, like, a handy cam, that part of it was completely created and completely directed by Heath Ledger.
Oh.
I mean, he's directing himself and one other guy, but I thought that was a neat little thing. Like, it feels different. Obviously, it's like Blair Witch style, because he's like first person shooting it, but it feels different from the rest of the movie because it was created by a different person than the rest of the movie, and I thought that was really cool.
Sorry, I'm still here. My phone's dying. So
oh, that's good.
I'm plugging it in.
That's good. Well, at least you're not, like, moving furniture or driving home or something.
I've done that before.
You have done that. And you've still kept up your end of the conversation, so you are a fucking champ. We go to the Harvey Dent fundraiser. Bruce is playing up the Playboy thing, arrives in a helicopter, obviously, with 3 women on his arm, toasts Harvey and Rachel, and sort of...
makes it sound like semi-condescending, but
there's no semi, it's really condescending.
Well, only Rachel, like, notices it's condescending.
Yeah. Well, okay, a little bit of dramatic irony, right? Because we know that he's jealous of Dent, so we as an audience know that it's condescending, and Rachel knows that it's condescending, and probably all the glad-handers at the thing know that it's condescending too, but it's like, hey, we gotta, you know, it's Bruce, and he's a rich guy, so we'll you know, just do whatever. Rachel calls him on it as they go out to the balcony. He tells Rachel that he's backing up Harvey Dent, and he is serious about it, because if Dent is able to take control, or not take control, but fix the problems of the city, hey, soon Gotham won't need Batman. And you remember, in the last movie, you told me that you'd go out with me if I wasn't Batman anymore.
That we'd be together.
It is. I will say, in the last movie, we talked a lot about how Vicky Vale is a fucking stalker, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this movie, Batman is a little bit like, hey, I'm going to do this and this and this, and then you have to go out with me. Like, it's not super hammered on, but it is enough to be a little bit noticeable. And then he just follows it up, trying to make it sound a little bit better to say that Gotham needs a hero with a face. In other words, like, you know, we can't all be dressing up for Halloween and fixing Gotham. We cut really quickly to the precinct where they've done DNA tests on the card that was pinned to the guy. I'm gonna cough. And basically, they found 3 different types of DNA on the card. One is the judge that we saw in the courtroom earlier. One is Dent, and one is Commissioner Loeb, who we haven't seen in the movie until just now. 3 different kills happen all at once, and this is where it kind of gets hard to follow, because it does sort of become a montage of, like, this is happening here, this is happening here, this is happening here. So I'm gonna
I like this scene a whole lot, though.
Where all 3 things are happening at once?
Yes.
Okay, so Gordon locks down the building where Commissioner Loeb is and tries to warn him about it. Loeb doesn't take him seriously because he's a guy in a high position. Why would I listen to a guy in a low position?
Well, no, he's like, I'm the commissioner. I get death threats all the fucking time.
Yeah, but then his response is like, well, you know, I learned a long time ago how to respond to stuff like this, and just pulls out some booze. So, to a certain degree, he's not taking it seriously. A police escort shows up to the judge to take her away, and their car blows up. That's not subtle at all. Harvey talks about proposing to, Harvey talks about proposing to Rachel, and she can't answer right now. Loeb gets poisoned because that's what happens there. As I said, the judge's escort explodes, and for Harvey Dent, the Joker arrives.
The judge's car explodes.
Yeah, the escort, like the her car explodes. I thought you meant escort as in the policeman. I'm like, they don't know where she's going. They handed her a thing. Oh, that's true. It was like, because they give her the instructions,
like,
and she goes on her own.
We don't even know where you're going, and they hand her a thing that's like, this is where you get in your car, and this is where you go.
You're right. I misspoke on that one. But Loeb gets poisoned because clearly, if somebody mentions drinking once, then they drink all the time. So we'll just poison their drinks. So he gets poisoned, she explodes, Joker shows up to do the work himself for Harvey, and he walks around and he monologues again, and it's just like the scene with all the mobsters, and he has that way of talking that really unsettles people, and he's chewing on his mouth, but also he's like really fidgety. It shows kind of like the entitlement of all the rich people, because like the one guy tries to like tell him off, and we don't deal with riffraff like you, and then Rachel tries to distract him. We get the second explanation for the scars, which is where he had a wife once, her face was cut up by the mob, and she was sad, so he cut up his face to look like her, and now she can't look at him, and now he's always smiling. And Batman arrives, and there's a generic ass Batman fights off all the goons scene, but Joker tosses Rachel out the window, Batman dives after her. Joker obviously figures out that Batman's got a thing for Rachel, and that was really the point of the whole scene. I do like the fact that when Bruce Wayne is going around his condo, like trying to find the entrance to...
Oh yeah, the people are making out, and they're like, "Oh, you're in a panic room," and then he just fucking leaves them.
Well, they're more than making out, because as he goes by, like, they're literally getting dressed again. And it's like a totally open like hallway in a business building. Like, you would have gone to the broom closet or something. Anyways, but it's a whole lot there that happens all at once. We tried for Harvey, and that didn't work because Batman sort of knocked him out and pulled him into a safe place. But we took out 2 out of the 3 targets. Harvey knows he's still in the eyeball of Joker, and now so is Rachel. It lends itself very well to what you were saying before. Like, it took a long time, but a lot of shit happened in a very condensed way.
Yeah.
We go back once again once I think at this point, Rachel and Harvey go to to Bruce Wayne's condo. Alfred is trying to talk to Batman again, morally, in the makeshift Batcave about how, you can't really be surprised that somebody like this exists because you pushed the mobs to the fact that they had to go to somebody else, and in their desperation, you sent them to the Joker. You sent them to somebody that they didn't completely understand. He tells that great story about the bandit in Rangoon. I don't know where Rangoon is.
Yeah, the guy who he kept stealing the diamonds, and then he
was throwing them away.
The gemstones, and he just throw them away.
And again, I'm going to throw this in the category of quotes.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, I'm going to throw this in the pile of better quotes than the Dent quote at the beginning. Some men aren't looking for anything logical like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some just want to watch the world burn. And it's fucking fantastic. And part of that is Michael Caine is just a great orator, but it's way more meaningful than... I'm going to keep hitting it because they've got that one quote at the beginning that they think is so meaningful and so thoughtful and serious, and every other quote you can pull out of this movie is way more on point. Joker tries to send another message to the police by killing 2 officers named Harvey and Dent. Little on the nose. Marks out a target for the mayor in the next day's paper. Batman analyzes the shattered bullet from the wall. I don't know how accurate that is, because if you shatter a new bullet, there's no way to say that it would have shattered the same way the last one did. And then...
Details.
Yeah, I really want to ask you about this, because I have this in my notes, but I don't know that it was necessary at all. You get the one geeky guy at Wayne Enterprises who tries to blackmail Wayne.
Oh, I love this scene.
I love the way Morgan Freeman's character handles it, but
he's like, I've figured out that we're fucking... I don't think he figures out that Bruce Wayne is Batman, basically, and he's like, he doesn't say
he finds the blueprints. He finds the blueprints for the Batmobile. He finds the
blueprints to the car, and he figures out that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and he's like, basically, I want $10 million for the rest of my life, every year for the rest of my life, to not say anything. And he goes, you think that the owner of this company, basically who sleeps through meetings and shit, runs around beating the piss out of bad guys at night, and you think a great idea is to blackmail him. So not only is the beginning of the statement is, this sounds crazy, but he ends it with, on the off chance that you're right, is that a dude you want to blackmail? And he just shuts up and he's like, here, you can have that back, and
I'm going to carry the fuck on. No, it's awesome because the guy he's working against in the scene is Morgan Freeman. And I'm sorry, Morgan Freeman can make pretty much anything awesome. That's why I casted him to be the new Professor X in a previous podcast that we did. But it's just... we need this scene so that we can know why he pops up later on in the movie, but it's just, he comes in, all full of himself and, completely Revenge of the Nerds, and even if it does serve a purpose, it's so out of place when it happens, it sort of juts the movie out of, okay, here's all the bad shit that's happening, here's all the people that are trying to solve it and all the moral issues they're struggling with, here's some nerd from accounting that wants money. I'm sorry, to me, I know it serves a purpose, generically speaking, and I know the scene sort of gets saved by the speech from Morgan Freeman's character, but I still don't know if I like the scene, and that's really the only scene I'm going to say it about, because I love this movie, and the movie's phenomenal, and the cast is phenomenal. I don't know. It's like we gave this dork 2 minutes of airtime, and I don't know why. So we go back
because they need it later for a plot point.
Yeah, I would have almost rather seen him show up on the thing and do it Easter egg style, because that guy was probably sitting in on the meeting that he had with Loeb when Wayne was asleep in the first place.
He was. He's the one that brings up. He's the one that brings up, like, that's fucking embarrassing.
Yeah. So, because then if...
He's the nerd from accounting, and then he goes, go over the books again. And he goes, they're solid. And he goes, go over them again. And then that's how he finds the stuff in...
Well, this is the thing, like,
Wayne Enterprises books.
Fox tells him to look over Lau's books again, so he decides to look over his own boss's books instead. Like, the expositional explanation there is a little bit chunky. I don't... Okay, maybe I don't hate it, but it's kind of meh. Because then we dump back into the serious stuff again. We got the funeral procession for Commissioner Loeb. The Joker's dressed as a cop. It is somehow more creepy to see his scarred up face not painted up than painted up. Is that fair to say? Because the only time you see him...
I don't see it long enough to I can't picture it in my head.
Okay, that's fair enough. The only time you really see him is when he's in there with the honor guard that are firing off the 21 gun salute for Commissioner Loeb. Dent kidnaps the Joker, drags him. Sorry, I've lost my place. Talk for a second. I've lost my place.
Oh, talk for a second, just like.
Yeah, just yeah.
Just talk for a second.
This is why I pick only the best co-hosts, because I completely lost my place in what the fuck I was talking about.
The big parade. I think he takes a shot at Commissioner Gordon. Or no, he takes a shot at Dent, and Gordon jumps in the way.
Yes, he does. And now I'm back on point. Dent kidnaps one of the Joker goons who got caught in the crossfire because he's in an ambulance, and the guy's also a little bit insane. But
now you go ahead and talk because I have to grab something real quick. So I gotta take my headphones off. I'll be right back.
Okay, so Dent is he's kidnapped a Joker goon. He's dressed as a cop. The cop's name tag, however, says Rachel Dawes, which is the next main big target, because the target has gone off of Harvey Dent and onto Rachel. I'm assuming because if we get to Rachel, you'll get Harvey Dent in the long run. Anyway, but he takes him and he just sort of drags him out into the alley, and he just keeps grilling him and grilling him and grilling him. He has him at gunpoint. We see him. I believe this is the first time we see the two-headed coin, and he says, I'm going to flip the coin, and if it lands on tails, you're going to get shot, and if it lands on heads, then you're fine. Nobody knows that it's a two-headed coin, but he's kind of freaking out because it says his girlfriend's name on this guy's cop uniform and all that type of thing. And I think Kristen's back now because I'm running out of things to say.
Okay, guys, I'm so sorry.
There we go.
I tried to get Travis I tried to text Travis. I've got acid reflux like a motherfucker. I feel like I'm burnt. I feel like I'm breathing fire over here. I tried to get Travis to bring it over to me subtly, but he didn't get my text message because he's asleep.
Very good. We're going to get Travis on here one day. It's going to be fantastic. Anyways, no, I was just saying that when he kidnaps the one Joker accomplice that's dressed as a cop, and the cop has the Rachel Dawes nameplate, so he freaks out because obviously that's his girlfriend being named, so he takes him out into the alley and he keeps threatening to shoot him. And Batman stops him and tells him, like, hey, you gotta do the right thing.
You can't be shitty. Like, if somebody sees us, then they're gonna let all the people you put in jail out.
Yeah.
I don't understand that logic.
Well, no,
tried,
it's not because of what's necessarily going to happen. Well, he basically says, like, if people saw this, then everything you've done will be put into question. We could lose all the people we just arrested, and then Jim Gordon would have died for nothing. Because at this point, we've sort of glossed over it, but at this point, everybody assumes that Jim Gordon is dead because he got shot. We sort of smash cut from this scene to the Gordon house where his wife gets the news and sort of screams out the front door because she just assumes that Batman is there, and Batman is there.
Yes,
Batman.
in the dark.
There is a pretty cool scene where you get a bunch of cops on the top of the police precinct, and you got to picture, like, sort of like in Batman the Animated Series, like Gordon worked with Batman, but a lot of the other cops kind of resented him because, the whole need for Batman makes the rest of them look really bad. So there's a bunch of people on the roof, a bunch of cops on the roof that are all having a drink after the funeral, or after the shooting, I should say. And even the cops that like normally wouldn't call for Batman are calling for Batman. And it's like, yeah, we might as well shut it off. I don't think Batman wants to talk to us. And then one of them says, God help whoever he does want to talk to. Because even though they didn't like him, Batman worked obviously with Gordon, and it's like, okay, we don't want a pissed off Batman roaming around in the streets. Batman goes to one of the Bob Mosses, and it's Boss Maroni. Finds him in a club. The beginning of this scene is great because he's got like random hooker chick number 5 sitting next to him, and she's like, "Why can't we go somewhere quiet? We can't hear each other talk." And he's like,
I don't want to hear you talk.
What makes you think I want to hear you talk?" And it shouldn't be as funny as it is, but I'm like, wow, the guy's a dick. So 2 minutes later, when Batman drops you off a building and breaks your legs, we won't feel that bad for you. And I will say that's a great thing, too. He's like, if you're going to interrogate somebody, you got to learn how to do it properly. From up here, a fall wouldn't kill me. And Batman's like,
I know.
Yeah, that's the point. He just breaks, and the way he falls and the way it's shot is just...
yeah, it hurts.
Yeah. It's really bad. And then, like, he stands over him with 2 broken legs and starts grilling him on the Joker. He's like, I can tell you where he's going to be, and... Oh, sorry, now we sort of cut back to what we just talked about, him getting grilled and whatever, and Batman stopping him and says, you're the White Knight. If people saw what you're doing right now, Gordon would have died for nothing. He finally makes the decision that he's going to reveal himself in a press conference and tells Rachel that he's not going to be Batman anymore because, hey, look what I'm doing, you have to go out with me now. It's weird. It could have a really bad context. Starts locking down, starts closing down all the Batcave stuff. That's where you get a lot of the sarcasm between him and Alfred. He's like, today's the day I find out what Batman can't do. Today you get to tell me I was wrong. And Alfred's like, well, today I don't want to because, this is not the right thing. But I did tell you.
I told you so.
And no, the better part of that is as they're walking away, he's like, I guess I'm going to go to jail too as your accomplice. And he's like, what? Accomplice? I'm going to tell them it was all your idea. Like, low key, I know you talked about it in the beginning. About how gritty this movie is, and it doesn't have very many ways of like letting you up.
It does have a few
there are
like, funny things, and it's usually between him and Alfred, or him and Fox.
Yeah.
And that's it.
But like
those people, but that's it.
As you go through it, you do realize that there is more. It's not comedy, but there are moments you can laugh at.
Quips.
Yeah, and it's quips from Batman, and it's quips from it's from Alfred too, but like it is quips from Batman when you see him with the people he's actually close with, which isn't very many people. We go to the press conference where Batman's supposed to reveal himself, and Dent tells the entire public, like, hey, we do need to make Batman answer for what he's done one day, but today's not that day. Right now we're not doing that because it's the right thing to do. Right now we're doing it because
How bad does it look, though, that he's like, yeah, we shouldn't bring in Batman just because this crazy guy does, and then when they're not buying it, and he's like, yeah, I'm Batman. So it sounds like he was just trying to talk everybody out of throwing him in jail.
I mean, yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but that is an excellent point. And they go back to the light and dark imagery again. The night is dark right now, and the dark it comes before the dawn, and the dawn is coming, and the thing. Rachel sees it on the news. She gets pissed. She sort of breaks up with Bruce, even though they're not dating, like, through Alfred.
She gives Alfred a note to be like, hey, we're not getting back together ever, ever, ever.
We're not, yeah. You don't hear it read right now. You hear it read
never,
later,
ever, ever getting back together. I fucked up a Taylor Swift reference. Sorry. Sorry that I made a Taylor Swift reference, and I'm sorry that I then fucked it up.
I'm more sorry that you made a Taylor Swift reference.
Yeah.
It's almost like you were Taylor not so Swift.
No. No.
But she is like, okay. her character at this particular moment has absolutely every reason to be pissed, because it looks like her not boyfriend just threw her boyfriend under the bus. But she's also really, really passive aggressive. She's like, make sure you give it to him at the right time. And he's like, well, how will, and he's just trying to be like helpful at this point. He's like, you know, how will I know what the right time is? She looks at him and she's like, well, it's not open, or it's not sealed. I'm like, that's weird. The caravan through Gotham is kind of awesome. The fire truck on fire always makes me laugh, just because irony. I
love that the caravan through Gotham is like, they've basically blocked off all traffic for this. So they literally, instead of like going down into like that tunnel area where it's like, oh, we're sitting ducks in here, they could have literally just like pulled onto the side of the road where like the opposite flow of traffic is. But because they've blocked off everything,
yeah,
they could have just done that.
Yeah.
But then we couldn't have this amazing action sequence if we don't go down there.
And I mean, it is pretty good, though, to be fair. Apparently there's videos
This is the part where I was like, where's the Joker getting all this money to, like, buy fucking bazookas and shit?
I mean, it's
And infinite cars. He has infinite cars.
You only need money if you don't steal stuff, and I'm pretty sure Joker steals stuff.
I don't think he could steal that much stuff.
I do like the fact that they took the time to modify the "Laughter is the best medicine" truck to say "Slaughter is the best medicine."
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice little touch. Obviously, it's a circus truck because Joker's a clown. Batman
heavy-handed.
Yeah. Batman enters the chase eventually. He sort of plows through the wall. You have those kids that are in the car in like some other part of Gotham, and they're just like playing little gun games with each other, and then the Batmobile breaks through and it almost immediately hits a wall, just so that we have an opportunity to see Batman turn the Bat tank into the Bat pod, or the Bat bike, or whatever, that obeys no laws of physics.
Yep.
The Bat cycle does not obey any laws of it. I'm not even going to mention anything specific.
It has like a weird like gyroscopic wheel that he can like, you know, stop, and then like it like stands on one wheel and then like turns
and goes up walls and shit. It's like Spider-Man seeing Captain America's shield. That thing doesn't obey the laws of physics at all. But we do get the grappling hook thing where he shoots the front of the truck, and then it keeps going, and it sort of pulls the truck in and over itself. And Joker, even though he's just been in a one truck crash,
he gets out of it. He's like, nah.
He sort of like stumbles through the streets and like actually falls over and rolls and keeps walking while he's like randomly shooting in the air. Batman plays dead. One of the goons tries to take the mask off, and the mask is apparently electrocuted, which leads me to believe that like at some point he's going to turn his head the wrong way and just electrocute himself. Like, that has to be a possibility, right? Because he tries to sort of hook it, like, right under the chin to take it off. So you're telling me, like, at no point has he ever, like, lowered his head to just do something tactical and shocked himself? I don't know.
Nope.
But Batman is actually at point-blank range on the ground about to get shot by Joker, and he's saved by Gordon, who's clearly not dead. Because reasons, and then we take Dent out of the back, and everybody goes home happy.
And they were like, it was all a ruse. I was never Batman.
I was never Batman, Gordon was never dead, and Batman almost had to play the victim for 5 seconds so that Gordon could save him. For a reveal...
It was all a clever ruse.
Yeah, it's... when you talk your way through it, it's a little too fucking tidy, but it's still awesome. Joker's in holding. They start running down all the ways that they can't figure out who he is. No matching prints, no DNA, no dental records. All his clothing is custom. There's no labels, nothing in his pockets but knives and lint. No names or aliases, whatever the case may be. The mayor comes through, and he's like, well, you know, I'm glad you're not dead. So go home, because you take the big job tomorrow. Commissioner Gordon! And then you see Joker clapping for him in the cell. And he shows up back at home. His wife opens the door and slaps him in the face.
Fuck you for making me freak out and care about you.
Yeah. I do think... Okay. in a movie full of all kinds of pun intended batshit stuff, there is one kind of little heartwarming moment where he goes in and he sees this kid, and the kid, who obviously knows who Batman is, did Batman save you, Dad? And he gets to be all proud in front of his kid for a second. He's like, actually, I saved him.
I got to save him.
Because, like, play the hero to your kid, so tell your kid that you were his hero's hero. That's good shit. That's feel-good shit. I like that. Another awesome scene is the interrogation of the Joker by Batman, but it's set up in such a movie way because he walks into the interrogation room with the Joker, and conveniently the lights are out, just so that we can have him turn the lights.
The reveal of Batman being behind him the whole time.
And he's like, oh, is this the old good cop, bad cop routine? Something like that.
Not exactly.
Yeah. And he just... There's so... Again, this is going to be like when I talk about the scene with all the mobsters at the beginning. There's so much to say about this scene. There's so much dialogue for a scene between a hero and a villain that's not a fight scene. There is so much character in this. There's so much back and forth between the two of them. There's so much like character study type stuff about how their theologies are not nearly as different as Batman would maybe want to believe. And he just basically tells them, and it's like, and again, it's the true shit. It's like, you can't talk like those people out there, because those people out there don't think you're one of them. Don't talk like them. They won't need you. And all these civilized people one day are going to eat themselves. And again, it's that harkens back to the Dent quote earlier about, eventually becoming the villain. It's like, these people will turn on you too. And... Again, it falls into that category of it's way more effective because it's definitely true. And yeah, say what you want about the Batman voice, because you can't really. You have to watch the movie a couple of times because there are some spots where you just don't know what he's saying.
Yep.
But Joker's eating up all the dialogue anyways, so. I don't know, because the voice stuff, it gets mocked, and rightfully so, because
it's not as bad as in the next movie. The next movie is worse by far.
It is generically worse in the next movie, but where he first comes in, when the scene begins, when he first sits down in front of him, and what he's saying is, "Why do you want to kill me?" And then eventually you get into the whole, I don't want to kill you, like, we're two halves of the same whole, and rah-de-rah-de-rah. But when he's saying, why do you want to kill me, he's not saying words at that point. Because it's like, why do you want to kill me? I don't know what, I'm all over the place tonight. This is fucking shit. We eventually get into the whole, like, Joker's master game of, like, you gotta choose one, because Dent is over there, and I know you want to be the good guy and save the other good guy, but I also know that you like Rachel, and she's over there, and... Because he makes him choose, but he also sets it up that whatever you choose, you're going to be doing the opposite. And
yeah, basically.
And I don't know whether that's like an extra twisting of the knife, or the movie itself trying to be a little too clever. Because either way, whoever Batman goes to save is going to hate him for not saving the other.
The other one, yeah.
There is a world where Rachel becomes Two-Face. And I kind of want to see that movie now. Anyways, Rachel gets killed, Dent gets half burned, and we do want to talk about the bad CGI of his eventual burnt face. But can we talk for a second about the really atrocious CGI of the cartoon flames that go up his face?
Yeah, that's pretty bad too, but that doesn't last nearly as long as the cartoon CGI of his face.
I mean, I do prefer the way they do his face here to the way they do the Tommy Lee Jones Two-Face.
Well, yes, but the Tommy Lee Jones is supposed to be wacky and crazy and
the Tommy Lee Jones thing is like, here, we put extra stuff on your face. Like, it's like, obviously you're not actually going to burn somebody's face. That's not what I'm going for. But like, his was like, here, we just put some stuff on. It's like a prosthetic and it sits really heavy and whatever. This at least tried to be like an actual decay, because fire doesn't add, fire takes away. So that's where I will give them much more credit for trying what they did here than obviously what they did previously, considering those movies are years and years and years apart. Not all of it hits, obviously. Later on when he's in the bar and he tries to take a sip and a little bit of it dribbles out of the hole in his cheek, that's a little on the nose.
Travis looked at, he goes, man, that one eye gets really dry, I guess. He doesn't have eyelids anymore.
Yep. He's got, like, in his back pocket, he's got, like, guns.
Eye drops.
And the guns and extra rounds and a little bit of Visine.
Yep.
Also, there's no way you're awake and moving around with that much trauma to your face. And, yeah.
Well, they even say when Gordon goes to see him, they say you're in excruciating pain.
Yep.
But he just doesn't care anymore. His girlfriend's dead.
Yeah. We do have the other little side story going on here where Joker knew he was going to get arrested because he already planned how he was going to get out. He's in there with some random cop that's watching him while the rest of them are going out and doing this stuff. He keeps poking him, prodding him, and he has this wonderful...
After everything that's happened, if I were the police, I'd be like, all right, nobody go in there with them.
Yeah, but he has this wonderful speech, and it's such a character-building thing, and it's almost more effective because he's talking to, like, an almost irrelevant character with, like, the guard that's there with him, and he does the whole side spiel about, like, why he uses knives. Because, guns are too quick. You get to know somebody really well if you have to get that close up to them to stab them and kill them and whatever. And so I knew your friends better than you ever did. Do you want to know which ones were cowards and all? And it's all wonderful, but also it does what it's supposed to do. It gets the guy to try something where he can reverse it and use a bit of the broken mirror that wouldn't have been broken if Batman hadn't thrown him into it, which is another nice little tie-in. But he's got one of his random goons that's in the prison who's still totally alive, even though Joker shoved a cell phone in him.
And a bomb.
Well, cell phone bomb, but like, because, yeah, that can happen. You can just, like, walk around with a cell phone in your chest.
Well, he said he was hurt. He said his stomach hurt. His insides hurt.
The boss went inside me and filled me with bright lights like Christmas. So he blows that guy up to get out. He takes Lau, which is great.
And then he burns him on a big pile of money.
Yeah. I think there's got to be some symbolism there, too. Not only did he burn the money, he burned the money guy.
He only burned his half of the money.
Yeah.
But it burned all of it.
Well, yeah, but he does it as a message, and the fact that he only burns his half, it's like, look, like, I'm only fucking myself over by, like, the way I think about things, so here's my share, and I'm burning it, and it is what it is. Alfred reads the letter as Batman's sort of going through the wreckage of where Rachel died. Basically, the letter it's a Dear John letter, except it's a Dear Bruce letter. Letting him know that she was about to say yes to Harvey. You're always going to be Batman. I'm always going to be there for you. It is the most we're just friends ever. Mm-hmm. He doesn't let Bruce see it. He doesn't let Bruce see it because Bruce already blames himself. He blames himself for Harvey. He blames himself for Rachel. He feels guilty because he's convinced himself that Rachel was going to say yes, which is a little bit backwards. Again, with the heavy symbolism, Harvey wakes up and sees his two-headed coin sitting there. One side of it is scratched up. We get it. Gordon comes to visit Dent. He's sorry about Rachel. Harvey basically yells at him about, hey, I told you there was corrupt guys on your force and whatever. And they do the most expositional...
What was that name you guys used to call me in Internal Affairs? Say it!
Okay, I got one for you. What is a more unnecessary bit of origin story? This or why Han Solo is called Solo.
Yeah. I liked the Solo movie, so...
Oh, I love the Solo movie, but the whole, oh, you're by yourself, I guess you're Han Solo. Like, he would have been Two-Face because he's got two faces now. Again, it doesn't hurt the movie at all.
It doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother me either, but it's just like...
But I mean, I say that as somebody that's like, this movie is good, but it's not my cup of tea, so I don't really have strong feelings for it. The things I have strong feelings about for it, I will tell you about, but most of it I'm like, nah. Like, my favorite part of the movie is coming up.
Yeah, well, we've hinted at it a bunch of times already, but we see Joker at the docks with whatever mob guys are left. He burns all the money just to, like, drive home the point that he's been making the whole time. He says, I've got simple tastes, dynamite, gasoline, all these things have in common that they're cheap. You guys are you're scraping around about money. This town deserves a higher class of criminal. And that's great because that ties in to the very first scene where the guy in the bank is yelling at him about how Gotham needs a higher class of criminal. And he basically says, you all work for me now. You all work for me now. It's like, we won't work for you. It's like, all right, why don't I treat you like one of your dogs and throw a piece of meat out there and see how loyal a hungry dog is. And I think that's great too. It's just all these people that are trying to go against what he's saying. It's like, okay, I'm just going to prove you wrong. Like, he doesn't hear them. Like, he doesn't hear them saying, you're wrong. He doesn't hear them saying, we're not going to work for you. He doesn't hear them saying, like, Batman's not the big deal. Why should we pay you? We can do this ourselves. When it's like, okay, I'll put a pencil in your eye. Okay, I'll feed you to your dog. Okay, I'll just set all your money on fire. You're fucked. Deal with it. Joker calls into the TV show where the Wayne employee is about to sort of out Bruce Wayne as being Batman because he's all of a sudden morally driven to do so. Plus, Joker the entire time has wanted Batman to unmask, and that's why he's been doing all the stuff that he's been doing. But he changes his mind. He says instead, let's let Batman keep his secret identity, and instead, somebody go and kill that guy. Somebody go and kill that guy that's about to out Batman, which is what I asked you.
Or I'll blow up a hospital.
Or I'll blow up a hospital. He threatens to blow up the hospital. There's a mass evacuation. The cops come in to save the Wayne employee, and it does get a little convoluted here because real quick Batman figures out it's like, okay, if we're worried about blowing up hospitals, we have to worry about people who have family members in hospitals. We need to make sure there aren't any cops with family that are in hospitals, and he does this Google search in like 2 seconds.
While he's driving.
While he's in his sports car, while he's pretending to just be regular Bruce Wayne. The better part of all this is, once again, another set of monologuing between Joker and Two-Face. You get that great line of, I didn't kill your wife. I was in, like, Gordon's holding cell. Your girlfriend. I was in Gordon's holding cell. He's like, well, it was your plan. Do I look like a guy with a plan? I know this isn't a wrestling thing, but, like, there's a lot of Dean Ambrose / John Moxley in this conversation. Because he goes into the whole, I'm kind of like a dog chasing a car. I wouldn't know what to do if I actually caught it. You need to introduce a little bit of anarchy. And the one thing about anarchy is that it's fair. And he sets Two-Face free. He basically says, like, I'm right. I'm going to set you free. You can shoot me if you want to. But he leaves and he blows up the hospital instead.
Dent flips the coin.
That's true. You are right. I skipped past that point.
Because he gave Rachel the coin before she died, and then one side of the coin gets all mauled up. Because his whole thing is, like, with the coin, is that I make my own luck. And you find out, this is the point you find out that it's heads on both sides of the coin. But after Rachel, she has it, and after she dies, it's like one side is all marred up.
Yep.
So
it is a heads and tails, even though it's heads and heads.
so, that's his new brand of justice, is flipping that coin, and if it's the good one, then you live, and it's the fucked up one, you die, and it was the good one, so Joker got to walk off.
Yeah. I do like the scene because
he basically does that for the rest of the movie to anybody that he has felt wrongs him.
We do get the awesome thing at the end where Joker's kind of like walking out all by himself, and he's in the nurse's outfit, which somehow makes him even more creepy. And he's like, he blows up a little bit, he blows up a little bit, he blows up a little bit, and then he has that
and then it stops, and
that twitchy moment where he and then he does get it to work, but then the explosion scares him, and he just hops on the bus. I will say, shout out to CinemaSins. There's a lot going on in this scene. There's a lot of heavy exposition. There's a lot of people moving around. There is a lot of craziness going on, but you would notice a clown nurse with a big remote control in his hand, all of a sudden jumping on the back of your bus. You would 100% notice that. 100%. I'm not taking the piss because I still like it. It's manic as hell, which is why I love the Heath Ledger portrayal. But it is a little tiny thing that's worth noticing. In the midst of all this, Joker has another newsman at gunpoint reading another message. He says, "At night, the city is mine. We're all going to be living under my rules. There's no bridges. There's no tunnels. Good luck getting out of here." Pretty much. We get what I think is where Lucius Fox steps up and becomes sort of the moral center of the movie, because we established early on in the movie that Batman used that mock cell phone to sort of map out the entire Lau building, but now we find out that he's been doing it so that every cell phone in the city is giving him, I guess you could say, readings or monitoring of the entire city. So he's got a snapshot of the whole city that exists on this giant computer screen that's made up of 1,000 little computer screens. Fox tells him he's not being unethical, he's being immoral. Basically, the idea is that Batman has become Big Brother.
Yeah.
But he's, this power shouldn't belong to anybody, and he's like, well, yeah, that's why the only one that can use it is you. Fox agrees to use it to help him find the Joker.
But he's like, I'm not going to work for you anymore if you have this.
Well, he says, I'm not going to work for Wayne Manor as long as this is here. And he says, well, just type in your name at the end. Dent kills Detective Wirtz in the bar. He kills Maroni by killing Maroni's driver, because he flips the coin. Maroni gets to live.
Maroni lives, yeah.
Maroni gets to live, but then he does eventually, I think he does eventually kill him, because he's like, well, your driver.
Well, no, he flips a coin for the driver.
Yeah.
And he thinks it's for him again. He thinks he's flipping the coin for him again and freaks out. And he goes, your driver's not so lucky. He kills the driver.
Well, he kills the driver, which causes an accident,
yes.
I believe. But I think it's funny that, he's so gone at this point that, he knows he's about to cause a car crash. He doesn't bother, bailing out of the car. He just, puts his seatbelt on.
Well, he wouldn't have caused the car crash if,
That's true,
it would have landed tails.
Okay.
Everybody's the flip of the coin now. Yep.
Eventually he even flips the coin for himself, but we're not there yet. We get the next big master plan. This is why the movie is so long.
This is the fairy scenes.
Yep.
Are my favorite, because they're the one, I feel like semi-ray of hope in the whole movie.
Well, it is this, and this is where we say before, Joker's really scary because he sort of reflects the bad in everybody, and there's a little bit better example in Batman 89, which we talked about last time, where he basically comes out on a podium and says, I'm just going to give you all free money. I hope you're on my side. Batman's at home washing his tights. And the idea that you get from that is, everybody says fuck it and follows Joker in a big parade just because he's giving them money, which is the implication that everybody's a bit shit and everybody can be bought. This one, I think, puts out the exact opposite message, which is awesome. But the basic idea of it is, and I mean, if you haven't seen the movie at this point, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast, but there's two ferries, because they're the only ways off of the island now.
And they have one ferry full of like criminals and one ferry full of just civilians.
And see, here's the thing. I get it. They want to get all the criminals away from the island because if the city basically goes into martial law, having a bunch of violent criminals there is not going to add to that situation at all. But also, there would be riots at that dock if you decide to tell the mass population that, yeah, we're going to come back and get you eventually, but we're going to make sure these criminals get out of here first. I get the logic behind it, but people as a whole would see that and take that big message of, like, you're taking more care of these criminals than you are of us law-abiding citizens, and there would be some backlash from that. I don't know what it would be, but it would be there. I don't know. I think it's an unnecessary thing. I think the Ray of Hope thing would have been even better if you had 2 full ferries of Gothamites.
I totally disagree. It's because the idea of like, because the first thing you see is not what the criminals think, it's what the ordinary citizens of Gotham think. And basically they're like, those guys had their chance, fuck them, we should get to live because we're like good. And especially, they never name him, but the one like pompous white guy after they vote and everything, but nobody wants to turn the key. He's like, I'll do it, blah blah blah, like,
and then he doesn't.
Those guys murdered and killed and all of this stuff. They had their chance, and I'm like, and then you're going to murder all of them. It's okay to murder a murderer, I guess. And then
it's called self-defense.
You have the much better scene of, all the prisoners, like, they're not getting a vote or anything. The prison guards and stuff are trying to figure out what the fuck to do. And then the biggest guy on the whole boat, biggest prisoner on the whole boat, walks up. And he's like, you've never killed anybody. You can't, like, you don't know what it's like. Like, so you're not going to do it. Hand it to me. You can even say that I, like, took it away from you. And, let me make the decision. The guy that's killed somebody before, I assume, is what they're leading us to believe. He's like, I've done this before, and you haven't. And he takes it, and he throws it out the window.
Yeah.
The big hardened criminal is like...
Is the one with the heart of gold, right?
The big hardened criminal is like, no, we're not gonna bow to this madman kind of thing. And the criminals actually, the guys who are in prison actually come off like as more human than the regular citizens of Gotham City, because let's be honest, the only reason the guy didn't turn the key is not because he like had a moment of, no, they're people too. Like, he did what the prison guards were doing. He totally punked out and has never had to kill anybody before. And he didn't make that jump. Not because he didn't want to.
I mean,
because he didn't have the balls.
There is the basic argument of, like, I blew up that car because I didn't want to blow up. Because on both, and I'm saying this for both boats, the fact that one happened to be criminals and one aren't, isn't going to matter for the example that I'm going to make. Because it's like, I'm not blowing up those people because I'm passing my own judgment on their criminal activity. It's like, I'm blowing up that boat because if I don't, either they're going to blow me up or Joker's going to blow me up. Like, it's not good. It's absolutely not good. But it's the whole idea of, you have to shoot, like, if somebody stood in front of you with a gun and handed you a gun and said, you have to shoot me or I'm going to shoot you, and you shoot, it's not a good thing, but you're not a totally unreasonable person to not want to die.
It's my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Oh, it is. It's phenomenal because it brings up discussions exactly like this one. But it's like, are you a terrible person if somebody else dies so that you don't die? Like, self-defense laws exist for a reason.
Well, it's not about self-defense at that point. It's about he's trying to bring the worst in humanity out, and it doesn't happen.
Right.
On one side, it doesn't happen because somebody decides, like, we're not doing it, but on the other side, it doesn't happen because, he pussed out, basically. He's never had to kill anybody before.
Right, but from Joker's point of view, he thinks that if one of those boats blows up the other, then he's proven that these people are bad people. Whereas it's not that. Like, a logical person would look at that, who's not insane and with a cut-up face and whatever, would look at that and says, no, if somebody out there on the water blows up the other boat, it's because they don't want to die. So I love that is the actual truth. I love equally that that's what Joker thinks he's proving if one of those boats does blow up the other one. I think it's great. And again, like I said, like to be boring and analytical about it, it's awesome character study shit. Like, there's not a single fight, there's not a single explosion, there's not a single fight scene or car chase scene.
Well, and this is all happening during the fight with Joker and Batman.
Yeah, which is, once again, and I've lost my place again. That's fucking great. This podcast is going really well. Batman basically works his way up through the building. They do the whole thing. It's sort of a side bit, but it's still really clever, where all the ones dressed as doctors are actually his goons, like he did with the police earlier.
The guys from the no, they're not all the doctors are it's all the people from the bus that he jumped on. He dressed them, he put masks on them, and they, like, taped guns to their hands.
Right, he dressed up the actual people, like the actual hostages, as goons, and he dressed up all his goons as doctors. So that when they came to get saved and whatever, that they would obviously get the wrong ones. And the whole time, Batman's doing his high-tech, like, sonar thing.
He's trying to save all the people, all the non-goons from getting shot.
Yeah. And if you want to draw a parallel once again between this and the last movie, the fight once again ends with Batman doing a little grappling hook gimmick and hanging Joker upside down off the end of a building. The only difference is this time he doesn't fall down because there's no gargoyle to latch to his foot. But that's when he lets Batman know, and this is, again, like, it's all
destined to do this forever.
Well, there's the whole, like, you and I are destined to do this forever thing, but what's more important is, hey, you've been focused on this fairy scene the whole time. The real battle for Gotham's soul is what I've done to their White Knight, Harvey, and what he's doing right now, and you don't even realize it because you're too busy dealing with me and dealing with these petty people on the boat, whereas Gordon has to go save his family, has to go deal with Harvey, because I've already, even if you kill me right now, I've done what I set out to do. Like, I didn't kill the heart of Gotham on these ferry boats over here, I killed the heart of Gotham by ruining the other hero. And I think that moment where Batman's like, oh shit, I was looking in the wrong direction. Like, that's brilliant to me. I really think it is.
So we go to Commissioner Gordon. Harvey Dent has kidnapped his family.
I will say the one last...
Go ahead.
Before we go on, the one thing that he does say about Harvey is like, I took the White Knight, and I'm going to butcher this quote because I actually didn't write it down. I took Gotham's White Knight, and I brought him down to our level, and which is awesome because he sees himself and Batman on the same level. He says,
yes.
It wasn't hard, because you know, as well as I do, sanity is like gravity. All you need is a little push. And again, very, 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 very true. I don't know what...
Harvey finds out that the chick that's basically been Gordon's right-hand man was one of the paid-off mafia goons. Like, her mom was sick in the hospital or something.
Yeah. Well, basically the only detective
so Harvey gets her to call Gordon's family and be like, hey, it's not safe there. You need to go to this place. And then, does he kill her? No, he lets her live.
I think it's...
Yeah, he flips the coin and she lives.
Yeah. I don't know. I have to go back and see that again because I don't know whether she does it. Like, he doesn't...
I think he flips the coin and she lives.
Yeah. Because everybody else he kills right away, or flips the coin for them right away. Her he used because she was the one that got Rachel out of there, and you know, so now she's going to be the one together. Because he gives her that whole speech in the alleyway. It's like, did they believe you? It's because they trust you.
Because they trusted you, just like Rachel did.
Yeah.
Yeah, she lives.
Oh, does she? Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't kill her.
And what we have at the end, I'm kind of going to throw it to you, because what we have at the end is a louder, angrier version of the argument that the three of them have on the top of the GCPD earlier on in the movie, when they're all gathered around the bat signal and Dent and Gordon are arguing and Batman's just kind of there. It's just like this weird three-way argument, and there's not very much fighting, because they just have this weird three-way argument. Obviously, it's different because Harvey's now Two-Face and he's got the family involved and whatever, but they talk a lot. Like, the ratio of talking to fighting just isn't there. Because he flips the coin, it's like, oh, am I going to kill your wife? Am I going to kill your kid? Am I going to kill your other kid? And there's a whole lot of Gordon doing the, not them, kill me instead. And there's a whole lot of Batman saying, you don't want to kill the boy, Harvey. See, Batman movies just inspire me to do all these fantastic impressions that I have in my back pocket. It's fine. Batman tackles Harvey off of a ledge. Harvey falls to his death. Batman doesn't quite fall to his death. And...
Because he has armor on.
Well, yeah.
I'm trying to be sarcastic about it.
And he's not already suffering the immeasurable trauma of having half of his body burned.
That's true.
We're going to call that a pre-existing condition. And...
It's so amusing when you laugh at your own joke, and then there's silence on my end.
Because you just want me to feel bad about myself, and I refuse!
I do.
I refuse!
I want you to feel bad about the bad jokes you make.
I don't like at all.
Anyways, great. Continue.
It's great. What do you call an animal that doesn't matter?
What?
Irrelevant.
Most of the time I like puns, but for some reason...
Oh, come on, that was really punny.
It was very punny.
Anyways, so here is the most ridiculous part of the whole movie, and I get it. I really do, because they want to tie it in to the quote from Harvey Dent at the beginning that I've already said isn't as meaningful as they think it is. We have to maintain the good reputation of Harvey Dent for the good of the city, so we tell everybody that Batman killed a bunch of people.
Well, all the people that Harvey killed, they say Batman killed. And then I think he also gets pegged with Harvey's death as well, but they don't say that until the next movie.
Yeah.
Batman persuades Gordon to hold him responsible for the killing spree to preserve his image. Yeah, they don't say that he killed Harvey. That's something that happens in the next movie.
I was gonna say it's heavily implied by Bane in the third movie. I do like the way that they took this twist from this movie and used it as a main point in the next movie. The continuity between these three movies is fantastic. And somehow Scarecrow is still in the third movie. It does my brain in. Like, I know we're trying to do a positive, what do you call it? Like, we want to leave it on a high note. The population of Gotham in general are not as bad as Joker wants us to think they are. So you would think...
No, they don't say he killed Harvey Dent. Okay. They play it off as he died in the hospital. Okay.
But the whole idea that you don't trust the public with, here's a person that went out in Dent, I'm talking about, that did a lot of great things, that wiped 500, organized crime folks off of our streets. suffered incredible loss, incredible physical pain, and had a mental breakdown. And then all this stuff happened.
I don't understand why you find that something like irrational, because I mean that happens in real life.
No, but I'm saying, like, I find it unfathomable that this movie wants to tell us that the general public would find that unfathomable. Like, okay, he did this bad stuff at the end after a complete mental break, so it's going to destroy all the good shit that he already did. I think
that happens in real life.
You have to get on.
I mean, this is going to be a terrible example of it, but you find the guy who raised all this money for children's research and helped, raise all this money for to cure diseases and did all these things, all these good things for kids, also a child molester. Now, I say that's a terrible example because one of those things is way worse than the good of the good thing. But it's in a similar range, I guess.
I just because what his job was a legal job. He went through the legal process and found all these illegal things that these people did. So regardless of whether he's even seen as a good guy or not, those facts would still be facts. Those criminals should still be in jail. The streets should still be empty.
When somebody's moral compass like that, I mean, I don't know how much of a real life thing it is, but whenever somebody's moral compass becomes that questionable, then people start to go through and find the little bitty tidbits of, well, maybe, then this person could get off because, of whatever reason.
I don't know.
I had a point on that, and it literally left my brain, and nice. I couldn't finish the thought, is what that just happened right there. I would love to say I was making, an existential point, and then my brain was like, no, we're not fucking doing that.
I agree with the feeling that this move wants to give us to end the movie. That Batman made.
I'm not saying it makes sense, but
no,
I think that's what they were going for.
I think it's morally wrong for the right reasons. I think it lets everybody heal a little bit. It gives everybody an easy answer. Batman disappears, obviously, after a while. It gives the audience the feel that it's supposed to. You're supposed to leave with this heavy-hearted Batman made the ultimate sacrifice so that everybody else could get on with their lives thing. I don't...
He's not the hero. He's not the hero they deserve, or yeah. He's the hero they need, or something.
Yeah. Anyways, we get a really...
Whatever the fucking quote is.
We get a really rapid montage to wrap up the movie, too, which is a little, we have this big, long, dramatic thing at the end where Batman has to leave, right? But then we get this montage, and it's Alfred burning the letter from Rachel. It's Lucius Fox, doing that.
Making the sonar thing explode.
Yeah, he's self-destructing the sonar thing, but metaphorically, he's that guy working his last day at a job, throwing his jacket over his shoulder and walking out for the last time.
Except that he's not, because I think he's in the next movie.
Yeah, oh, he definitely is. But it's that feeling that they're trying to put out there. Alfred burns the letter. Nothing that's here right now. Nothing in this montage matters once you get to the next movie. Alfred burning the letter doesn't matter because he ends up telling Bruce in the next movie. Fox destructing the sonar thing and quitting Wayne Enterprises. He's back for the next thing. Gordon trying to explain to it. The best part of all of this is Gordon trying to explain to his son why Batman has to run. Because, he's the hero, he's not the hero we deserve, but the one we need right now, or something to that effect. And in explaining it, the feeling that I've always gotten from this is, two adults talking about why we're just going to pin all this on Batman can happen. Because they can talk about all the logical reasons why and everything that you just said. Him trying to explain it to his son is different because kids are innocent, and when you're trying to explain something to a kid, it's more innocent. So you can see on his face how wrong it is, and you get that from him having to explain it to his son. And I think that part of it is brilliant. The entire montage to end this is great, and this is a great movie. And
it is a great movie.
Because I'm sorry,
it's not my
the movie just kind of drops off, but yeah.
It is not my cup of tea, but it is a great movie.
I saw this.
So I didn't have a lot of negative things to say about it, but that also means I didn't have a lot to say about it.
Yeah. I don't usually go and see things in the theater more than once unless they're really impactful to me, and take impactful whatever way you want. I saw Infinity War twice because Infinity War in so many ways was such a huge movie event that I went and I saw it twice.
I think I saw it 3 times in theater.
This movie, I mean, also granted, I was in large groups every time. This movie, I was happy to see in the theater 4 times. Obviously, I think I went by myself, and then I went with a small group, and then I went with 2 larger groups. But where part of that is sort of just like, okay, I'm going with the group and this is what the group is doing, but also like I'm very happy to see this in the theater again. Like cinematically, this movie is brilliant. The way it's shot, the way it's made, the way it makes Gotham City feel big. Whereas,
unlike Batman v Superman, where Gotham and Metropolis were like a block away from each other.
They're like New York and New Jersey. I've heard somebody say. No, I was thinking more like not like Batman '89, which was done on a soundstage, so it feels like Gotham is like one square city block. But yeah, so sing as how. I know we're really rambling on now. We are treating this as the Joker trilogy. How do you stack up Heath Ledger's Joker against Jack Nicholson's?
Not
which one's better, but just like looking at them side by side.
Heath Ledger's Joker is more realistic, whereas Jack Nicholson's Joker is more like leans more towards cartoony. Like I said about Jack Nicholson's Joker, he's like the medium between Batman animated series Joker, where it's all, literally cartoony.
Because it's a cartoon.
This Joker.
Okay.
If there's a spectrum.
Okay.
This is on one end, animated Joker's on the other end, and Jack Nicholson's Joker's on this one. And this is the more dark, gritty Joker, and the more I feel realistic, other than the fact that he has infinite money apparently to buy bullshit.
Or he just steals things. You only need money if you plan on actually legally purchasing things.
This is one of those movies that like everyone loves, and I'm just kind of like meh about it, but I know it's because it's not up my alley. Like,
yep.
The quotable parts of the Joker, to me, like, people that are really into this Joker, like, really into it, come off to me as, like, the people that, like, I have a really dark sense of humor, like, emo people. Sorry, Steve.
Steve?
Yes. Monoxide. This is the version of the Joker Monoxide loves, and it's not at all surprising to me based on Monoxide's personality.
I've never had Monoxide on this show.
He can actually do this Joker like fantastically well if you get him to. He dresses like he does the cosplay for it and everything.
Nice.
He does it justice, but it's just like.
Is it as good or better than you cosplaying as one of the Bellas?
No, his is fantastically better, because I did mine begrudgingly, and that only made me realize that I can never have hair that long. That wig was awful.
Oh man, I I don't know what the fuck I would cosplay. I don't cosplay anything, so I really shouldn't be laughing. But, alright, so I can ask you this, because we're in the interesting situation of next time we're going into another movie you haven't seen. From what you've heard, and the two Jokers we've seen so far, what, if anything, are you expecting from the Joaquin Phoenix Joker
I'm
movie?
expecting it to be closer to this Joker than
Okay.
the other ones. In spectrum.
I would agree. I think I said it at the end of the last pod. The last Joker that we're gonna do is just really heavy, and that's the only word I really have for it.
I can tell you, if that's your description of the next Joker, then I'm probably gonna have very similar feelings about that movie than I do about this one.
Okay, put it this way.
When I watch these heavy movies, it's heavy. And
Have you ever seen any of the old, like, Adam West, like, original Batman, like the cheesy
wacky
thing? I would say Joaquin Phoenix Joker makes this movie look like an Adam West Batman movie.
Then I can already tell you, spoiler alert, my thoughts on the next movie probably going to be about the same level of energy from me, which is I'm like,
you're gonna have a bad time. Anyways, so yeah, I love this movie, and we are not very high energy after being
Nope.
done talking about it. So
not high energy at all. In fact, it went lower than when I started.
So I have no witty transition.
And it's not because it's bad. The way I'm sounding makes it sound like I hated the movie. I don't. It's just
not for you.
I don't watch a lot of heavy movies.
Yeah.
I watch upbeat movies because, if I want to be sad and heavy, I can just like be by myself, and my own brain does a lot of that on its own. But also, I can just like turn on the fucking news.
I was gonna say, definitely turn on the news.
Just turn on the news. Like if I'm gonna escape from something, I want it to be upbeat.
Yeah, that's fair. You're kind of the opposite of how I look at things. It's like when we do the Marvel stuff, and the really, really, like, supposedly what I'm supposed to think is really, really fun stuff, like friggin' Ant-Man comes along. And objectively...
You're just like, it's silly, whatever.
Objectively, it's a good movie. I'm not particularly a fan of Paul Rudd, but, like, objectively it's a good movie because it's a big, long, like, cinematic universe. I can definitely see exactly where it fits. Functionally, it works. It's just not for me. And what you're saying is basically the same thing from the other side, and that's totally cool. I give you a lot of credit for being able to do that more than somebody who's like, it's not for me, therefore why the fuck am I going to bother? Like, so you decided to come along on this trip with me anyway, like we have with so many other movies, like Alien 3.
I would just like to add that before we started this podcast, I was describing, because I work at an animal clinic right now, and I was describing that a couple of our puppies have parvo, which, if you don't know anything about dog diseases, is a shit disease for a puppy to have. And then we went straight into this movie, so it kind of was like always going to be a downward trajectory.
Yeah, we started on a really sour note.
We started on like, one of these puppies has parvo, and it's a really shitty disease that could probably kill it. All right, let's talk about the Joker.
you were talking about sick puppies, and I was talking about my area going back into lockdown on Monday. So we came into this with exactly the right mindset.
Yes, which is like, ugh.
Like, we're gonna have like our favorite celebrities like die, and then we can talk about Joker. Like, that's how that's gonna go down. Anyways, I have no witty transition whatsoever, so I'm just gonna stop here and say, tell these people where to find you, because I think we're done.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, FlatCatFeline. I have an Instagram, but I haven't updated in a while, but same name. And yeah, that's it for me. I'm gonna go be sad for a little bit.
Real sad.
Not real sad. Not like not like Undertaker, what is it,
Graveyard
Graveyard
Dogs.
Dogs or whatever the fuck they were called. That was like a soul-crushing sad. This is like an existential sad.
All right, and you guys know where to find me, or you wouldn't be here. I've been Spaz. She's been Kristen. We are your Flix Fix reality check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, me and Kristen are out of here. Bye, guys.
Bye.